coming in as a select board member is complicated and confusing enough because there's no manual for it.
But we still have not been recovered yet. So that's probably the tricky thing.
Knowing who can be reached out to, knowing that the procedures are in place, understanding how the ICS system works so that I know that it can be easily implemented.
But to have a major disaster on top of it and not know how do you manage this was very complicated, and
It's tough, but so I think that's the trickiest thing is the actual recovery, and it takes months and months. I mean, Irene was August of 2011. This is now 2013.
right.
And
You know, attending meetings and leading how you're going to deal with aging issues and things like that. It's also, what are you going to do if a life or death situation, if a tornado or hurricane runs through your town, or a massive fire takes out the entire downtown area, or the river floods, or the bridge gets washed out, or any of those kind of things. And so I think
It's so layered and complicated and confusing with the jargon and the structure and not understanding. And so being the new person and not having any background in that and basically being parachuted in to the situation without understanding the structure and learning it as I go.
responders are really well trained. So the actual response is not the issue so much. It's the recovery and managing the recovery that really is not supported. It's financial, it's frustrating, there's never enough money. There's systems that are set up that don't fit for small communities. We don't have the expertise to do cost-benefit analysis. We can't fit into programs. People need empathy and they need help, and so you're very frustrated because you yourself.
Staying sane for me is actually through relationships. People actually call you to see how you're doing in a really bad situation. I got a lot of phone calls during Irene. We got a lot of help.
And you've built these relationships so you feel like you are really doing something. You are capable of making sure that your community gets reimbursed, or that you get the proper resources, or that there is truly some recovery happening. And that makes you feel very good.
that team is there and that I can reach out in any of a number of directions. And even if Dennis, for some reason, isn't personally available, we have all those contacts that we can draw on. So I
was just very fortunate that we, there was mistakes that were done, but I had a good highway crew, and they were out trying to open up roads, and we had good police, and we, the roads that were collapsed, we blocked off, so no one was hurt. But there was mistakes. I mean, we were dumping rock when we should have, if had I known, I would have called NRCS, and we would have gotten money immediately for some of the collapsed roads and eroded riverbanks and stuff like that. But I just didn't really know. And so
I would say that it helps to say that it's good to be prepared. And I think that
you make every single highway guy, every single police officer, every single EMS guy, every firefighter have the form with them and make them responsible for filling it out. And you've spread the pain, and you've eliminated some of the fight, and you have some of your paperwork done.
So here we are. We have a group of people who show up at these sorts of things, and we continue to show up, and we look for each other to show up, and then we bring somebody else with us the next time, and then we build it that way, building it out. There's always going to be people who don't come, and maybe it's not a point of interest for them. That's fine, as long as we have a good solid group of people across the 26 towns who know how this works and has relationships with people so they can understand how we all do need to work together. If you didn't come, we're sorry you weren't here, but maybe you can make it the next time, and if you do, chances are good we'll be here and we'll say hello.
and knowing who can be reached out to, knowing that the procedures are in place, understanding how the ICS system works so that I know that it can be easily implemented, getting not only my firsthand from the interactions I have with Chief Dennis Anir, who is our emergency management director, but actually hearing what each of you have said to me personally about how helpful he's been and his work and everything else makes me really comfortable that Orange will get through any disaster that might hit us, that we have that team to draw on, not necessarily all Orange residents, but that team is there, and that I can reach out in any of a number of directions, and even if Dennis for some reason isn't personally available, we have all those contacts that we can draw on. So I think that in and of itself, let alone all the information that we learn, just knowing that that's there is really relieving.